While Caitlin is fantastic and I think she's going to have an incredible career in the WNBA, there are women that were worthy of coverage prior to her arriving, and I just will not be silenced when it comes to that.
Here we go again. Why is Caitlin Clark popular?
Caitlin Clark is only popular because she is white. That is a narrative that is very popular among the morons. Major moron, Monica McNutt, how she has a job, I absolutely know, at ESPN.
The one thing that I cannot deny is the amount of little girls that were showing up to follow her.
Why her?
Well, but she was a white girl from the middle of America.
You think anybody cares if Dejournay Carrington knocks Kennedy Carter on her ass? No. You think anybody cares if Angel Reese misses her next 6 layups, falls down, shows her ass, and claims sexism? No. We only care that Caitlin Clark is playing. We only care that Caitlin Clark is getting beat up. We only care that Caitlin Clark is hitting a deep three. We only care that Caitlin Clark is getting poked in the eye. Everybody else can poke everybody else in the eye. The reason we care because her game is something we have not seen.
When you thought there was no more outrageous explosion in the conflict between Caitlin Clark and her media detractors, the sports world is impacted by legal shockwaves just moments ago. It was announced that Caitlin Clark had sued ESPN's Monica McNutt, claiming that she had circulated racist falsehoods that defamed Clark, insulted her followers, and attempted to thwart the WNBA's greatest ascent in history.
Prevailing narrative that has been created around this season's WNBA play is that it's the league versus Caitlin Clark, and that is just absolutely false. It is unfair to the women that have been there building this league to this moment so that Caitlin Clark's popularity could take it to the next level.
I don't expect the race baiting to stop. I don't expect the hate to stop, the jealousy to stop, the sexism to stop, the bigotry to stop, the stupidity to stop. Because the people that tell you that Caitlin Clark is only popular because she's a white girl are full of shit. You either don't pay attention or you're too
by referring to Clark as a white girl from Middle America, who allegedly only appeals to young suburban girls. McNutt has implied that Clark's fame was more about her skin tone than her abilities.
People aren't spending 3 hours of their time to watch Caitlin Clark play basketball because they're racially motivated.
However, Caitlin is now retaliating in court. Why did Clark reach his breaking point?
Here's what Caitlin Clark said. Y'all come at me like this, I'm not doing any interviews with you. Y'all keep coming at it with these dumbasses, Monica McNutt. I'm done with you. I'm not doing interviews with you. We'll go play in the Unrivaled League, and let's see which league gets going. And then let's see where the hell we're at. Your dumbasses at ESPN want to get up there and be racist as hell towards me? I don't participate in racism. Next time I hear that bullshit, we ain't playing in a game that you're telling.
How did this move from a media incident to a full-fledged lawsuit? And why is McNutt allegedly crying behind the scenes? Oh, we're getting into this.
Now, none of these women, Monica McNutt, they're either too arrogant or too stupid to understand that what they've said all along about Caitlin Clark is just simply wrong.
If it was because she was white, Sabrina Ionescu would have changed and brought the WNBA and turned it on its head, but she is not turning the W upside down on its head like Caitlin Clark is.
Whoever these people are, none of these women are going to come back and say, yeah, you know what? We might have been wrong about, well, she's a white girl and that's the reason she's so popular.
Hold on tight, because what has transpired has the potential to permanently alter sports media. Additionally, if you support Caitlin Clark and think that her success stems from her talent rather than her skin, tone CC 100% in the comments. At this moment, let's demonstrate to the world that talent and diligence are still important.
The women of the WNBA will continue their jealousy. They'll continue to hit, fight, knock Caitlin Clark on her ass, and Caitlin Clark's viewings will just go up, up, up.
The WNBA draft ticket prices have come out, and thanks to the Caitlin Clark effect, ticket prices have skyrocketed for the WNBA draft. In fact, they've doubled.
Hey Fever fans, it's Caitlin Clark. I can't wait to get to Indianapolis. I know you guys are excited. I am too. Go Fever!
There's no way the WNBA could have draft and not have Caitlin Clark involved. Caitlin Clark appearance, commentary, something that's going to have her in the venue in front of people. Even if it's just standing around, people are going to pay money to want to see that. Tell me once more how the Caitlin Clark effect isn't real.
It all started with an apparently informal interview. Monica McNutt, a frequent WNBA voice and up-and-coming ESPN pundit, appeared on the BBC, the subject of Caitlin Clark's debut season. and the flurry of media coverage, McNutt then uttered the words that would start a controversy.
But she was a white girl from the middle of America.
It's impossible for the women on television, the racist, sexist, to give Caitlin Clark, quote, her flowers.
She claimed that because Clark was, quote, a white girl from the middle of America, she represented a lot to many people, not necessarily because of her demeanor or what she said. The entire conversation changed with those 7 words.
Caitlin Clark's game sells. Her attitude sells. She doesn't talk much. When she does, we pay attention. Has nothing to do with her being a white girl. It has to do with her game. It has to do with taking Iowa. Has to do with deep threes. Has to do with behind the back, no look passes. We're drawn to those type players. Black, white, green, or purple.
Monica made an effort to maintain her integrity while admitting that Clark was a dynamic, strong, and marketable individual. Her remarks, however, had a different impact because she wasn't merely evaluating Clark's gameplay, rather, she was asserting that Clark's fame wasn't solely due to her on-court exploits, but rather to what she stood for racially, and that for many fans and commentators. That was the precise moment the narrative became poisonous.
There's the two sides who think she is only popular and does have the notoriety and recognition that she does because she is white. There is the other side that says you guys are crazy, you're all jealous of her, and she is just talented.
Critics reacted promptly. They contended that McNutt's framing gave the impression that white supporters were only attending because Clark resembled them rather than because of her leadership and apparent brilliance.
Why have all these fans come to see Caitlin? And all the little suburban white girls have hopped on board because Caitlin Clark, she resonates with them more so than the angry black lesbians who dominate the WNBA.
Some drew attention to the inconsistency given their representation. Would it be problematic to suggest that young black girls look up to A.J. Wilson or Angel Reese? Of course not. However, it becomes an issue when it comes to Clark and her predominantly white fan base.
I'm going to need all the race baiters who explain Caitlin Clark's popularity simply because she's white to explain why 10 million more people watched her last year than Paige Becker's, also white, this year. And a lot of people, of course, said she had Angel Reese as the villain. 18.9 million, the most ever. The 18.5 million did not involve Angel Reese. It involved USC, South Carolina. Guess who's this year game involved? That was 10 million down from last year. South Carolina. 2 biggest names in college basketball this year. Actually, they were in this Final Four. They were in this championship game. And yet, the ratings tanked. The ratings were over 50% less.
The charge was not nuanced, it was computed, and Monica's remarks, whether on purpose or not, cast a shadow over all the young girls who came to support Clark. So it wasn't just about him anymore. Racial bias was suddenly being reduced too. Little girls who wore her jersey held homemade banners and stood in lengthy lines only to take selfies. Consider the sensation of that. Not only for Clark, but also for the thousands of families who wanted to support a player they adored.
After the women's NCAA championship, viewership numbers were released where Clark and Iowa set a record for the 4 most watched games ever in the women's Final Four involved Iowa and Caitlin Clark. People are going to tell you that the reason Caitlin Clark was so popular in college was her rivalry with Angel Reese. But there is no Angel Reese. There was no Angel Reese. There was South Carolina. Angel Reese played at LSU.
And although, while Monica may have believed she was bringing up a significant issue regarding representation, a large portion of the public saw something quite different. A subtly potent implication that Clark's success was inherited rather than earned, not because of her diligence, self-control, or unique skill set, but rather because she was born white and from the Midwest.
There is just so much statistical data to prove why people are invested and interested and can't stop looking at Caitlin Clark. Like, she has broken a record for records. As a rookie, she has done things nobody else has done. Stats do not require race as a prerequisite. They just are what they are.
Tickets for Monday's upcoming WNBA draft have nearly doubled since last year. Attendees this year will pay $99 or more to sit in the lower tier. Last year when Clark was drafted, the tickets were $50.
That's where the harm began. Caitlin Clark also remembered it. The remarks made by Monica McNutt were not ignored. Actually, the sports world burst once they lighted a match.
You stand up to bullies. You don't acquiesce. Because when you acquiesce or apologize, it will never stop. You stand up to bullies. You tell them go F themselves.
Critics from a wide range of backgrounds started criticizing her almost immediately after her interview aired, claiming that it was a cheap attack at a young woman who had only played the game she loved, and that it was biased and racial baiting. Both former athletes and conservative independent podcasters attacked Monica, saying she tried to portray Caitlin Clark as the face of racial bias in women's sports and introduce racial storylines where none fit.
And Caitlin Clark does have a further 3-point range than even Steph Curry, and that is just kind of bonkers. Think about how popular Steph Curry is. Caitlin Clark shoots farther away on average than he does.
It all comes back to Caitlin Clark's popularity. I believe it is based on basketball more than anything else. Look at what went viral from the Letterman clip, her playing basketball.
To put it plainly, one sports analyst, she came for more than simply Clark. She came for all the young girls who admired her. Others claimed that by associating race with the purest form of fandom, that of young children who only wish to support someone they admire, McNutt had gone too far, accusing kids of unintentional racism that triggered a nerve. One commentator even went so far as to name it bottom feeder commentary and call it a new low.
Caitlin Clark made the comments to Time magazine. Monica McNutt recently said on BBC, perhaps a big reason for Caitlin Clark's popularity is she's white and from the Midwest.
The Monica McNutt stuff, and specifically with this level of media, we're talking about with ESPN, their issue with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark represents Trump America, MAGA America. They see her and they say, this is someone that everybody who roots for probably voted for Donald Trump, and I hate Donald Trump, and I hate those red hats, and I hate everything that represents to me. Because to me, that represents racism.
However, it didn't end there. The indignation swiftly grew into something more significant. The hashtag defend Caitlin started trending on social media. Videos of Clark signing autographs for both white and black children were circulated by fans. After games, pictures appeared of her embracing young girls of all races. It directly contradicted the claim made by McNutt that Clark's appeal was racially exclusive.
And little girls said, hey, I can relate to Caitlin Clark. She's like us. She has a boyfriend. There's a lot of parents that feel real comfortable taking their kids to a game.
ESPN and claimed that Monica McDougal is an NBA analyst. Obviously, Monica never played in the NBA. Monica wasn't even good enough to play in the WNBA. Maybe that's why Monica seems to be jealous of Caitlin Clark.
Furthermore, Monica didn't try to provide a public apology, but her silence just made matters worse. Outkick commentators and sports stars like Dave Portnoy criticized ESPN for allegedly using identity politics as a weapon against one of the only players who were genuinely generating income and interest for the WNBA. Even a cruel remark was made by one author, since Clark is the reason the league at last gained a mainstream following. ESPN would prefer to bury her behind accusations of white privilege. He claimed that McNutt and others couldn't accept that a white, straight female from Iowa had improved the league more than decades of racial branding and social action.
Paige Beckers is a terrific player. She'll capture the imagination a little. She'll do some commercials, but she's not going to be Caitlin Clark because she doesn't have that kind of game. Don't try to compare her to Diana Taurasi or Miller's sister, Cheryl Miller, Tamika Catchings. No, her game is different. It's better. It's flashier. It resonates with the way basketball is played.
This is when the situation became more unsettling. A few insiders and fans started making connections. Suddenly, Caitlin Clark's frequent on-court taunting, harsh fouls, elbows to the face, and incessant trash talk stopped appearing so random. The media narrative, spearheaded by McNutt and others, had made Clark a target. They claimed that she was a symbol of white privilege because of America's preoccupation with race and that narrative. Some players felt justified in pursuing her.
Two things. I think it has to show up in our storytelling, and it has to be encouraged by our families.
Yeah.
To me, right? And so covering the WNBA this past season, Caitlin Clark's rookie year, for all of the conversation that surrounded her, some which was fair and some which wasn't, the one thing that I cannot deny is the amount of little girls that were showing up to follow her. Little girls with their parents and the fervor and the energy there.
Why her?
Same thing.
Why her?
Well, I was just about to say same thing for Angel Reese when I had a chance to cover their games. But I think Caitlin represented, and again, some of this to me probably is not fair to her because it was not anything that she said or was truly based on her personality, but she was a white girl from the middle of America. And so she represented a whole lot to a lot of people, whether that is truly what she prescribed to or not. We can all say she is a dynamic basketball player and a force both on the court and the marketing sense. But I do think, same thing with folks that may have fallen in love with Angel Reese that may or may not have agreed with everything they had to say either. We attach our fandom to these icons for all types of reasons.
Former black players have decided, hey, we're going to hate on Caitlin Clark constantly to elevate ourselves, but also trigger her fans so that they'll keep coming to games and rooting for her, and it's going to elevate the entire.
Therefore, nobody was shocked when Clark eventually got up and declared, "Enough is enough." The fact that it was a lawsuit was the only surprise. However, Monica McNutt's remarks, the ensuing criticism, and the public uproar that transformed a basketball star into a cultural lightning rod were the seeds that were sown right here. What started out as media angst has now turned into a full-fledged court battle.
You women of the WNBA will get past your racism, past your sexism, and see a woman that just freaking balls like we like to see people play basketball.
Basketball Monica McNutt has allegedly been sued by Caitlin Clark, a quiet but self-assured rookie who has borne the weight of a league on her shoulders, for defamation, reputational harm, and inciting animosity through racially tinged falsehoods. This isn't your typical PR disaster. This is intimate and real.
She shoots logo threes, passes the ball like Magic Johnson, scores a lot of points, leads the league in assists. She's a great, great player, and she plays and shoots and releases the ball like Steph Curry. So there's the attraction to the exciting style of play. Asia Wilson should be centered, and they should be celebrating her. And all the little white girls should want to be like Asia Wilson. Little black girls don't want to be like Asia Wilson.
Insiders familiar with the matter claim that the lawsuit focuses on Monica McNutt's persistent claims that Clark's success is due to her whiteness and ability to relate to a particular group, rather than her own abilities. It particularly refers to McNutt's now viral comments that portrayed Clark as the result of racial preference, rather than exceptional athletic ability, according to Clark's legal team. The remarks were harmful in addition to being deceptive.
She's different. She's a white girl from the middle of corn country.
They like Caitlin Clark because she's not a victim, because she doesn't seem to be angry. And so they find her relatable.
According to reports, Clark claims in the lawsuit that McNutt's remarks set off a chain reaction that resulted in heightened on-court violence, hostile media coverage, and numerous attempts to undermine her achievements being slapped across the face, made fun of in interviews, and subjected to taunts from other athletes. The lawsuit claims that Clark became a lightning point for animosity because McNutt presented her as a symbol of privilege, which escalated the situation. However, it goes beyond.
Yet, instead of appreciating Clark for leading the WNBA out of the abyss and into the mainstream conversation, mean girls and race clowns met her with resistance. Because Caitlin Clark's white, that's why little girls have gravitated towards her. I think what she's saying is ridiculous, and to tie it to little girls, you're going as low as humanly possible at this point.
The claim that McNutt's remarks fostered a harmful stereotype is part of the legal case. That women's basketball achievement should only be honored if it aligns with a particular ideology, in addition to insulting Clark's fanbase by limiting it to race-based support. McNutt exacerbated divisiveness in a league that was already struggling for cohesion and expansion. According to the lawsuit, Clark has had a huge impact on the league, as seen by the spike in ticket sales, TV ratings, retail sales, and public awareness since she entered the draft. It contends that McNutt's attempts to minimize that through racist narratives were not only incorrect, but also malicious, and that Clark accomplished more than just play basketball. She revitalized the WNBA. The emotional impact behind the scenes was shocking to many. According to sources, Monica McNutt appeared obviously upset after receiving the lawsuit. An ESPN source claimed to have been moved to tears upon realizing that the network's heyday had devolved into a legal nightmare. According to a different source, she thought she was performing critical analysis rather than slander. But the harm had already been done, and Clark wasn't going to back down.
She was a white girl from the middle of America.
WNBA's attendance had a record-breaking high in 20 years with a total of 2.3 million fans attending games. You know what the increase was from 2024 to 2023 in attendance? 48%. That's massive. That's the Caitlin Clark effect.
Phenomenon, yeah.
If Caitlin Clark gets injured, it's over with.
The WNBA, ESPN, and the fundamental basis of how race and gender are discussed in contemporary sports media have all been rocked by this lawsuit. Because a gamer didn't disregard the sounds for the first time, she didn't choose the morally right path. Caitlin Clark decided to retaliate using legal weapons, facts, and receipts. It's more than just a dispute now. These days, the truth, reputation, and the true meaning of stardom in women's sports are being fought in court. This is no longer just about basketball. It's also about the cost of greatness and what happens to a young woman who refuses to allow false narratives to rewrite her legacy. This conflict wasn't requested by Caitlin Clark. She worked harder, played smarter, and broke records in ways we've never seen before to earn her position. But when the clamor became too loud and the headlines misrepresented her, she did what champions do and refused to back down.
Every single one of you WNBA players, you better pray that Caitlin Clark doesn't get injured, because she's keeping your league afloat.
Juju Watkins goes down with a devastating injury that might keep her out next season. God forbid. If the same thing happens to Caitlin Clark, the WNBA will not survive. You have one young woman carrying the entire league. And Monica McDougal and her pretend friends in the media, they are doing everything they can to piss off her fan base.